Started. Mr. Deputy Chairman, I thought I should rise to support the point put forward by the Honorable Mr. Kunjru, but my honorable friend from Hyderabad has said I had better deal with first. He has attacked more or less the whole system of elections in India. He has talked of indirect election and so on. I am afraid he has gone far beyond the scope of the bill, and I do not think that needs an answer at all. As regards the question of preparing electoral rolls, I think there is ample power vested in the Election Commission to order the preparation of a regular electoral roll. If the Election Commission considers it necessary for any extraordinary reasons, such as a large exodus from one place to another, and things is as the honorable member himself said, it is such a vast country and such huge numbers are involved that I think it would be really an unnecessary burden on the resources of the state to launch upon the preparation of electoral rolls every year. The same purpose could be served by revising the electoral rolls every year as per the directions given by the Election Commission as well as the rules laid down for the purpose. In a democracy, one of the prerequisites for its success is vigilance, and I think it would be quite in order to expect the people of various parties to interest themselves in the revision of these electoral rolls. In fact, that is an obligatory task of the citizens, and it only helps to greater awareness and alertness on the part of the different parties. There was a to which I should like to refer. He referred to false personation. I am not going to deny it absolutely. There might have been some false personation, but to say that it was the Congress that resorted to false personation and that all other parties were paragons of virtue and were angels dropped from heaven is simply absurd. That he should have had the boldness to virtue such a reckless statement, I should say irresponsible statement without any proof whatever, was wholly unfair on his part to the Congress, and it is no credit to this august house that one of its members should make such an allegation against the opposition parties. In the rural areas, you have nearly 3.5 million new job seekers. Every industry must be viewed from the larger angle of industrialization of the country, from the point of its employment potentialities, and also from the point of view of raising the standard of living in the country. Yesterday, here, the Prime Minister was saying that unless agriculture looked up, national income would not go up still higher and the standard of living would not go up. I entirely agree. But then in the rural sector of our economy, we must develop simultaneously the other sector, that is called the rural industrial sector, for promoting rural industries on a large scale. That is not being done. Now, I found in our country and we heard complaints that these industries were not getting help. The artisans are not only not taken care of but sent to their doom by the government in many places. I found that in the south also many fine handloom industries which should be nursed by the government and developed with all the attention and care are allowed to go out of existence. Therefore, it needs a serious rethinking on the part of the Commission as to how can we set about this task. It is not just a question of supplementing something. It is a question of developing a dynamic sector in our economic life in the countryside, because we cannot envisage a situation where industries will be developing only in the towns and the problem will be solved. Bigger industries and certain other medium industries will certainly develop and should develop in the towns. At the same time, small industries through cooperatives, state sector, individual enterprise, and through artisans should also develop in the countryside. This is how we can step up the rate of industrial progress of the country. These industries can cater to the consumers' needs to a considerable extent, relaxing our pressure on imports and also helping the development of certain vital industries. Apart from providing employment, the employment question is very important. Now, at the time of the last general elections, the gentlemen of the Congress party issued a manifesto written by Prime Minister Nehru, in which they have said that unemployment would be reduced in the course of the next 5 years. At that time, it was 53 lakhs. Now, when they went to the third general election, has gone up to 90 lakhs, and we are told by the Planning Commission that in the course of this 5-year plan, it would have gone up to 12 million. Sir, my purpose is to appreciate the stand taken by my honorable friend Shri Kunjru. I do not know. It is for the honorable minister to say whether even now, as the clause stands, it would not be open to the Election Commission to review the order of the Chief Electoral Officer made in appeal against an order of the Electoral Registration Officer. I have an idea that the Election Commission is supreme in these matters, that even when there is an appeal from the Electoral Registration Officer to the Chief Electoral Officer and the Chief Electoral Office's an order, though it may be final in the ordinary sense, it does not preclude the Election Commission from revising that order. I would like to be enlightened on this point. If the Honorable Minister in charge says that the order in appeal of the Chief Electoral Officer over an order of the Electoral Registration Officer is final and it is not open to the Election Commission to set it right, then I beg humbly to differ from such a stand, and I think that is a lacuna which should be made up. So, I would like the Honorable Minister to apply his mind on this aspect and see that is the supreme authority of the election commission in this matter, which is of vital importance, is in the least abridged or curtailed. I think a slight amendment to clause 23 would set right the whole